Okay, this is one of those everyone lessons. So today I want to clarify, demystify, if you will, things about chords and what they're called, and also how we can color them, how we can take simple chords that we know and make them a bit more sophisticated, make them sound a bit cooler. And these are things that many records that you're listening to, you're hearing them on there anyway, so it seems that it would only make sense to include this as an everyone lesson. And so the first thing I want to say is that the big confusion for most people, after all my years of experience of teaching, the big confusion with most people is what to call a chord, or how two names of a chord can become very confusing for someone. So we're going to choose, suspended chords, and particularly we're going to choose sus2 versus add2. This is a big problem for most people, and so there has been a document put in your folder that has all these sus2 voicings. So the first thing that I want to mention is that a sus2 voicing means that we are moving one of the notes in the chord down to a 2. That note tends to always be the third. So in a 1-3-5 voicing, a plain old G, B, D, can be any chord, it doesn't have to be G, I just use that as an example. In a chord like G, simple triad, B is the third, we're going to move that down to A. So notice how I said we're going to move it. I didn't say that we're going to add it. So I want to stop right there and take it out of a musical situation for a minute. Naming these chords, I said earlier. Think about your name. If your name is John, it has specific letters, and it has specific letters in a specific order. If I change any of the letters in there, or I change the order of them, I've changed the name. It's not the same thing anymore. So maybe you could think about it in that mindset, and it would help you musically. So once again, G, B, and D now become G, A, and D. And I just doubled the G at the bottom. You don't have to do that. These are just examples for now. So G, okay? Now, in contrast to that, remember, that's the sus. I took the third and I moved it. Now I'm going to add something to the chord. Okay, I'm going to add a 4. I'm going to add a 2 to the chord instead of suspend. That was sus2. Now I'm going to add 2. Okay. So in this particular case, I have the root, the third, the fifth, and the 2. The 2 is also the 9. 2 and 9 are the same. So, that is not a G sus2, that's a G add 2. Now another way I could do that is, so that's G, A, that's the added 2, D, which is the 5, G once again, which is the root doubled, and then B up top, which is the third. So the root, the third, and the fifth are present, and there's an additional note, and that additional note is the 2. They're really cool sounding chords, and it certainly fancies up, instead of playing, so that's a big difference between sus2 and add2. Very important to keep that in mind. So let's take a simple chord, just like a C triad, for a minute. So that's on strings 5, 4, and 3. So C, E, and open G. Okay. Root, third, and fifth. Now, I can add a 9, D is the 9, I can add a 9. We've heard that chord millions of times. That kind of a thing, right? So, adding in that note as a 9, why didn't I call it the 2? Earlier I was talking about 2s. Well, let me explain something. When we're dealing with chords and we're talking about chords, we have to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. And so what I mean is, if the chord is C, and it's a major chord, we have to take all the properties, like for example from the C major scale, and treat the chord that way. So, this note D is 9 scale steps away from its tonic, which is C, the root. The tonic or the root, which is C. I'll prove that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1, 9. So the distance from here to here is 9 scale pitches. So C, E, G with the D up top. C, add 9. Not C sus 9. C, add 9. Okay? So, I wanted to also point out some things that you can do on your own by taking chord voicings that you already know, things that you've been playing for years, chord voicings you use all the time, and, well, let's say pretty them up a little bit, okay? So in this example, we're going to use an A chord, and I'm going to do that on strings 4, 3, and 2. That's my triad. So in this particular case, that's an inverted triad, right? This is the 5th, the root, and the 3rd on strings 4, 3, 2. E, A, and C sharp. That's a plain old vanilla A chord. Let's get the open string underneath in there to fill it out. You're very familiar with that. Okay, so what we're going to do here is actually change what's going on with that, and we're going to change it in 2 ways. And so let's, once again, basic A chord. Let's sus 2 that A chord. So when we use the sus rule, we move the 3rd, in this case, to the 2nd. Sus 2. So your A chord now becomes, there's no C sharp in that chord, there's no 3rd. That is a suspension. In contrast to that, if I do this, whoops, now I have the 3rd and the 2nd in there. So it's A, E, B, and C sharp. Really nice chord. Those chords are ever present in that famous Police song. Something like that. But those chords are ever present in there where we're adding the 9, we're adding the 2 to the chord. So your regular A triad, simple chord, all you had to do was take your 3rd finger or your pinky and put it on the note B, which is on string 3 at fret 4. And you have this great sounding chord. So in a weird way, we can do that with all the rest of your A chords. But before we go that far, let's verify what those A chords are. So we have E, A, C sharp, then, which is just a plain old root position triad, major triad, in this case A. Then first inversion, which is 3, 5, 1. So let's get this straight. 1, 3, 5, 3, 5, 1, 5, 1, 3, which is the same one that I played down here. Okay? So we already took this one into consideration. We gave it the add 2 and we gave it the sus 2. And you can hear how different they sound right there. It's a really, this is probably the best example that'll be on the video. It's a very different sound as opposed to... Okay, all that being said, I probably should have cleaned my guitar up more for this. Got to have a little grit on there. Let's go to this one. Okay, so this will employ the use of the open A string in this case, okay? So the A is still present, that's the root. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to first do an add 9, and that looks like this. So this A became a B. So I have the root, the 9, the third, and the fifth. So A add 9, which is like this guy. Okay. And we'll use this triad next. And instead of the open A, I mean, we can still use the open A if you'd like, but I was actually going to use this A here and go, and with the third up top. So that's A, B, E, A, C sharp. So that's 3 ways to take just a simple A chord and do that. Now you can do that when they're on root 6, you can do them when they're root 5, but this is the experimentation process. So I have one where we started, which was root 5, and then we did another root 5, but truthfully this could have been a root 6. You could have done this. So that's a root 6 bar chord, and I took this A, and I moved it up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the 9. Okay, and then this one. So that's one thing you can do. So I would say look around. Here's another simple one. Use open chords at first to kind of do this. Here's an E chord. Okay. Let's take, since we have 2 roots, we have E here. We also have E here. We even have it up here. Let's take this E and move it to the 9, which is F sharp. So now your E chord can sound like this. For my ear, that always beats playing this. Well, if we can take the F sharp and do it here, if we move the E to F sharp here, we could also move it up there, which would be this now. Just relocating the note. So that is, okay. So if you do that same process, well, what's your next E chord that you have? You have a root position one. Now get rid of this G sharp here because you have it doubled. Here's a G sharp. Here's one. Or in a simple root 5 bar chord. They just sound like better chords. They just sound nice. And so the video is meant to inspire you. It's not the kind of thing where you necessarily have to copy all the things that I did, although those are certainly viable voicings and they're ones that I enjoy using. But it's really to inspire you to check out chords that you're playing and see how you can move some notes around in there and what you can get out of it. And there's a whole lot more to do with this, but we'll tackle that on future videos. Anyway, enjoy the challenge.